Hello everyone, this is Peak Entertainment. We are back again, and here now we have another tennis video for you, and we're going to talk about the French Open and go through my overall picks and predictions for the semi-finals for both the men's and the women's side of the draw. So quickly on the women's side of the draw, we're going to go through the following matches. So the first match that we have is Tamara Zidansek against Anatasia Pavlyuchenkova. Now Zidansek had an epic 3-set win over Paula Podosha, and Pavlyuchenkova beat previous Grand Slam winner Azarenka on her way through to the semi-finals. Now, once again, these are two very unknown players within the tour, even though they've been on the tour for a number of years, so I can't really comment too much in terms of their overall form or record. They've hardly played against each other as well. So in this case, I'm going to go for the seeded player Anatasia Pavlyuchenkova to win in 3 overall sets. Now, the second semi-final that we have is Maria Saakari against Krejcikova. Now, Maria Saakari caused a massive upset by beating defending champion Iga Swiatek, who was the favourite to win this tournament this year as well, while Krejcikova beat emerging superstar Coco Gauff after fending off some break points and beating her in 2 sets overall. Now, I honestly think this will be another epic 3-set battle. I think we're going to get a lot of intense rallies, a lot of hard-hitting shots, but overall I'm going to go for Saakari to prevail in 3 overall sets. Now we go to the men's side of the draw, and we have truly 2 big blockbuster semi-final encounters. Now, on the first match that we have Alexander Zverev against Stefanos Tsistipas. 2 of the supposed next gen. I've commented on this multiple times throughout my tennis videos. Both in their early 20s, both seemingly approaching their prime now. We really should have seen them both stepping up to the plate by now and starting to win slams overall. Now, the head-to-head between the two is 5-2 in Tsitsipas' favour. Zverev did win the last match in Acapulco in Mexico, and he has actually won more titles on the clay than Tsitsipas does. He's won 2 Madrid Masters tournaments previously, but I still think overall that Tsitsipas is the better player overall in terms of his shot making, in terms of his just overall court positioning and his more skillful selection of tactical play on the court. Now, Zverev, of course, he's very tall, he'll always have that big serve, and yes, he's got that big forehand, particularly down the line, but he doesn't really have the consistency, I think, to last over 3 out of 5 set match. And once again, we always question the mental side of Zverev. I think that's the overall problem we've seen recently throughout many matches. You know, in particular, we look at the US Open, for example, when he was 2 sets up against Dominic Thiem and didn't see it through. We look again at the Australian Open this year when he was 2 sets to 1 up against Novak Djokovic and couldn't see it through. And there's a problem not only with him, but I think with the current younger players, that again, when it comes to 3 out of 5 set matches, it's that problem of maintaining your discipline, maintaining your focus, maintaining your concentration. And we've seen that all the way throughout the tournament when we look at Musetti, Sinner as well, and to an extent Schwartzman against Nadal, which I'll talk about in a moment as well. It's just that inability to stay focused for 3 out of 5 set match, and I think that will be the main downfall of Zverev in this match. I think Tsitsipas, while he to an extent has the same dilemma, he's really now beginning to build some major momentum on the clay surface in particular, and he's already dismissed Daniel Medvedev in 3 sets in the quarterfinals as well. So I'm firmly believing that Tsitsipas is going to be just too strong, too clever, too tactical, and just too cultivated for Zverev overall. But I wouldn't dismiss Zverev being able to take a set, especially if he can serve fast and hit those ground strokes running hard. And again, he has managed to get some tournament wins on the clay surface as well. So I'm going to go for Tsitsipas in 4 sets overall in terms of his match against Zverev. But I wouldn't be overall surprised if it does indeed go to 5 sets as well. And then we come to the biggest match of the tournament. Not only the biggest match of the tournament, but currently the biggest match in tennis. You all know about it. It's the match you're all going to be talking about, I'm very much sure. Whether you're a general sports fan or a hardcore sports fan, this is the match that's going to capture everybody's attention, the one that we've been looking forward to ever since we saw the draw of opponents a couple of weeks ago. And that is, of course, Rafael Nadal against Novak Djokovic. This will be overall their 58th match in what is now the most dominant rivalry within all of the tennis, and perhaps the most dominant rivalry within all of sports. You know, what more can we say about this rivalry? The two most accomplished players for certainly the last 10 to 12 years, without question. Now, in terms of the French Open overall, we look at so many of their battles, and particularly the epic semi-final match in 2013. That's the one I think Djokovic really has been closest to beating a peak Rafa on the surface. We look at later in 2014, the final, 2012 going back as well, and then 2020 as well. Now, Novak did, of course, beat Rafa Nadal back in 2015, but I think we can all agree that that was a Nadal that was very much struggling with form and fitness. That wasn't really the true Nadal that we have seen certainly within the last 5 to 6 years on the clay surface. And recently, of course, Nadal did beat Djokovic in the Rome Masters final in straight sets as well. Of course, when we go back to the previous year, he did, of course, beat Novak in 3 straight sets in the 2020 final as well. And that was the final that really surprised me because of the fact that the French Open had been moved to September. It was largely indoors. Conditions were a lot cooler. So I think, like me, a lot of people were expecting Djokovic maybe to perhaps get the upper hand on Nadal this time around, but that wasn't the case. But this is a rivalry that really, it could go either way. You know, I think when both players play at optimum level, it can be such an evenly match. Yes, we could say that overall Novak is the perhaps superior player, but Rafa has enough about him to beat Novak if he adopts the right type of strategy and the right type of tactics. And of course, when it comes to the clay, Rafa is the clear favourite. He's just more comfortable, as I've mentioned several times. The surface of clay, it gives Rafa more time for his movement, more time to execute his swing. Therefore, he can execute more of his angles and his topspin, and he's just right at home in his element. So clearly, when it comes to the clay, Rafa is clearly the superior player. I think nobody could deny that overall. But let's be fair here and let's look at Novak's side of how he can win this match. Again, if you want to win against Nadal, what you need to do is be super aggressive from the start. You need to take the ball early. You need to take the ball on the rise. Make sure you hit it before that ball has the chance to execute the top spin that Nadal looks to execute so much. You need to take time away from Nadal. You need to rush him. You need to bully him. You need to really make him doubt himself in terms of his shot selection. And that was what, for a short while, Diego Schwartzman did. If you look particularly in the middle of that second set and perhaps the beginning of the third set in their quarterfinal match, that's what Schwartzman did. He was taking the ball on very early, hitting the angles, hitting down the line, and Nadal, for a short while, didn't know what to do. You know, he was worried if his shots were getting too short, then Schwartzman would get putting them away. And that's what you will get with Rafa. You know, eventually when he executes his topspin, sometimes the shots will be short and it will land just ahead in the surface box. And that's when you've really got to press him hard and be aggressive. And sometimes I think Novak doesn't always tend to do that. You know, he's like Nadal. He likes to play from the back of the court. You know, his shot length is exceptional at times. But if he's not stepping in, if he's not taking the ball on the rise as normal, then that's what will allow Nadal to get back into the rally. So that's what Djokovic has got to do if he wants to prevail in this match. Now, obviously, the ultimate dilemma for anybody when playing Rafa on clay is that you've got to play that aggressive mindset for 3 out of 5 sets. And especially when Nadal's playing on his optimum level, chances are you're going to be up there for 4, maybe 5 sets, playing a 4, maybe 5 hour match. And it's difficult for anybody to maintain that level of aggression and consistency for that amount of time. You're going to start making errors. You're going to start rushing your game, rushing your shots. And that's when Nadal can just be more consistent and just grind you down. And we saw that against Sinner in his 4th round match. We saw that against Schwartzman in his quarterfinal match. Rafa is just so tough. He is so resilient in just being able to keep getting the ball back. And the real danger is when Rafa starts hitting the length, when he starts really hitting those angles and he himself will start being aggressive. And that's when it can really grind someone down psychologically, and that's when they can really lose their heart, lose their spirit, and just lose the fight for the battle. And I think that's what we've overall seen against the matches between Rafa and Novak on the clay. It will get to that clutch point and then Novak will start going for winners, start being aggressive, and then Rafa will just be a true force of attrition, just keep getting the balls back and just grinding Novak down, and that's when he will just eventually lose the intensity of the battle. Now, Rafa himself, he's so secure on this surface. He knows what to do. He's played Novak so many times. Again, as I mentioned before, his case on the clay is just to keep trading with Novak, be aggressive as well. The down the line forehand is so crucial, not just on clay but in any surface for Rafa when he plays Novak. And if you look at the overall wins that he's managed to score over Novak, it's that down the line forehand that is so key, because that takes away the angles from Novak. That's when he can make Novak stretch, and he makes it difficult to return the shots with length and angles, and that's when he can come in and close out the point. So that's going to be key for Rafa. Again, you can go back and watch their previous matches, in particularly I think the 2013 and the 2014. Watch those matches when it's very closely contested. Novak does have the upper hand, and then Rafa starts being more aggressive and hitting that shot down the line, completely changing the momentum and swing of the match. That's the key shot for Rafa. As long as the fact that he can serve well and serve consistent as well, then that will be, I think, the biggest element into what can give Rafa the upper hand against Djokovic. So just to bear in on this match overall, we talk about the tactics, and I've just talked about the strategies that both players can use in order to gain victory. But once again, whenever these two come across the net against each other, it's got huge significance when we talk about the never-ending debate about who is the greatest of all time. And each time these two play, each time they win a tournament, each time they play each other, beat each other, it's yet again another significant chapter in that never ongoing debate. Now, of course, as we all know, right now Rafa sits on 20 slams along with Roger, and Novak is on 18. Now, of course, if Rafa goes on to win this semi-final, he'll be a major favourite for the final. If he goes on to win the final, that will then put him on 21 and will deem him, for many, including me, the greatest ever of all time. And again, that will even head-to-head against Novak, and of course they are already even on the Masters, so that will really sway it a lot, that argument as to whether Rafa is actually greater than Novak, which I believe he is. But if Novak wins the semi-final and then goes on to win the final, he will then have 2 wins on each slam minimally, of course, and that will again further his defence that he is the greatest, despite having the fact that he's got less slams still overall than Rafa. So that's why there are so many key elements, there are so many big ramifications in terms of the greatest all time, in terms of this match. That's why it's such a huge blockbuster installment. Many may deem it the final. I think that might be disrespecting a bit the winner of the overall Zverev Tsitsipas match. I still expect it to be Tsitsipas overall, but yes, this for many will deem the final just like what we had in 2013. So there's so much riding on this, so much significant impact, not only in terms of the French Open tournament, but also in terms of the men's tennis overall. So despite all of that conversation, who's going to be my pick? Well, I honestly believe that if Rafa plays to his optimal level, then he can fend off Djokovic on the clay no matter how well Novak plays. So I think at some concerted stage, Rafa will be able to hit that high enough level to defeat Novak, and I think it's going to be a 5-set epic, and I think Rafa is going to prevail in 5 sets overall. Now, the other interesting key will be as to when they will stage this match, because we all saw the blunders that was made last night with the Matteo Berrettini quarterfinals with Novak, where they started the match late and then they had to eject the crowd because of the curfew conditions in France overall, and it really was a disruptive incident for both players. They've played for 2.5 hours under the atmosphere and the intensity of the crowd, and then they had to sit away and then come back again to dead silence. And I think that really disrupted the flow and momentum of that match overall. We also have to question how much of that would have taken away from Novak having to play late on. It was quite a tough 4-set win over Berrettini, of course. Will he have enough time to rest and recuperate for a major intense battle against Rafa overall in 5 sets? So I firmly believe they should put this match on first, and they should actually start the matches a lot earlier on Friday, because Zverev and Tsitsipas itself could be a potential 5-setter as well. So I really think they should consider starting the match earlier. They don't want to go into that scenario again where one of the matches will end up having no crowds watching. I know they have to try and adhere to the television ratings, but common sense should prevail here, and I really think they should start the semi-final matches around about 12, I would say. I think 12 you can allocate it, and potentially you get a 4-hour match or potential a 5-hour match. That still gives you time overall to have a good 3-4 hours for Stefanos, Tsitsipas and Zverev before you have to potentially take away the clouds for the curfew. I think that's the best way to do it, but we'll wait and see what the tournament decides to do. I'm pretty sure we'll get some indication today when we look on the internet, and we'll see what will be the overall schedule and order of play for those matches of the men's semi-finals on Friday. But those are my overall thoughts and feelings on this. So as I mentioned before, I'm picking Pavlyuchenkova for the first semi-finals, and I am picking Saakari for the second semi-finals. And then on the men's side, I believe Tsitsipas will beat Zverev in 4 sets, and then I believe Rafael Nadal will prevail over Novak Djokovic in that truly epic 5-set classic tournament match, which may also be one of the best matches of the tournament. So there's my thoughts and feelings on the men's semi-finals of the French Open. Let me know what you think in the comments below. How do you think it will prevail? Do you think the match between Nadal and Djokovic will be a major blockbuster and one of the best matches over here, or do you think Nadal can possibly win in another straight sets victory just like he did in last year's final as well? Do you think Zverev can potentially cause what I would be maybe thinking it's a slight upset against Tsitsipas, or do you think Tsitsipas is quite good now and perhaps maybe he is the dark horse for this tournament? And do you think even if Nadal comes together to face Tsitsipas in the final, that perhaps Tsitsipas can have the youth and the energy this time to beat Nadal in the final, because of course he's already beaten him coming back from 2 sets down in the Australian Open quarterfinals this year as well. So those are my thoughts on the men's semi-finals. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please also hit those like and notification and subscription buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.